Frank Raymond Ferney, Aviation Metalsmith Chief. We got orders to my first squadron, which was VSF 1 in Alameda, California, which is in the San Francisco Bay. We drove up there, the wife and I, and checked into that squadron. Everybody always asked me, what the heck is VSF 1? And it's almost unheard of, but at that time we had A4s, Skyhawk A4s, carrying a nuclear-tipped torpedo to do that's what VSF stood for, Anti-Submarine Squadron, for the A4s. The nuclear tip, we'd find a sub, they'd find it, they'd drop the torpedo, and granted, it never happened when I was there, so that's a good thing. But I was in that squadron, went on, from there we went on to a Mediterranean cruise. It was only about a month and a half long, believe it or not, but it was out of Norfolk, Virginia. So I had to fly from Alameda to Norfolk, where I got on the USS Independence. Massive. I mean, we climbed the ladder, got on board. As a newbie, I didn't know what was going on, you know. I remember the galley. I would go into the galley in the evenings, and at the beginning of the galley, it would be a long glass with trays, and they'd give you a tray. It was a metal tray. I don't think they do that anymore, but it had a metal tray with the scoops, you know, the different partitions in it, and you'd walk down the line with a whole bunch of other guys, and you'd walk up, and there'd be a guy standing behind her, you know, a mess cook. He didn't want to be there. But I put the tray on, you know, it's mashed potatoes. You go down to the next, corn. You had one guy at each station. You get to the end, and they had mystery meat most of the time. You know, you didn't know what it was, but we called it mystery meat. So we'd get to the end. That was another thing. We'd get to the end. We'd sit in the little closed compartment in the lower deck of the ship to eat. Going up on the hangar deck, I learned out where the shop I was going to be, which was right off the hangar deck. Unbelievable, a huge hangar deck underneath that flight deck. And elevator, you put an airplane on it, and it goes up on the side. They weren't there yet, but we could see that. What threw me off for the first time, that I'll tell you, is we were at sea. My rack was up on the forward part of on the aft part of the ship, right below the flight deck. The flight deck was right there. And guess what's right above there? The resting cables. And then when the plane comes in and hits the deck with how many thousands of pounds when it slams on the deck and it drags that tail hook, it hits that metal and hits that cable, and I'm laying in my rack sleeping, and you hear that cable get paid out, and the huge slam. It kept you up all night, you know. So that's one of the things, you know, that was surprising to me. Believe it or not, the racks were about 6 foot. 6 foot. I was 7 foot longer. So I ended up, they had the compartments, but in the aisleway down between the compartments, they had a couple racks sitting there, which were by themselves. So they had no base, they had no front, no back. So I took one of those and stuck my feet out. And I got one of the mattress covers and slid into it like a sleeping bag and let it hang out the bottom. That's where I slept. On the Independence, my crew and all my squadron mates met there, and all the A4s that were with us were back in Alameda. As we took off and went out into the Atlantic Ocean, about 15 to 30 miles offshore, all the A4s in our squadron started showing up. That's how they do that. They don't, you know, we don't tow them aboard or lift them. They actually fly aboard after we deploy. So we deployed, went over to the Med. We did our carrier quals and all that stuff that went on over there, chased a few subs, and came back, and on the way back they told me and called us in that our squadron was decommissioning. They didn't need the VSF 1 A4s anymore to do that mission. The wife just got a job in Oakland, California while I was gone, and I thought, wow, you know, here we were. I was an E4, E3 or E4 at the time. This is great. You got money coming into the house, you know. So we get back, and they told us there'd be a detailer there to tell us exactly what we wanted to go to next if we wanted to move. We had our choice of where we wanted to go. I said, I want to stay in the area because my wife's got a job. They said, no problem. You can go right across the street to the other A4 squadron. It's right over there. And lo and behold, I grabbed my tool bag and walked across the hangar and checked in the next day, and I was now in another squadron. Stayed there for probably less than, didn't deploy, stayed there for probably 4 to 6 months, 4 to 5 months, and they decommissioned. So they asked me, where do you want to go? I said, here. They said, there ain't nothing left here. So we picked Whidbey Island, Washington for the A6 squadrons, the new A6s that were coming in, that were being used in Vietnam.